I grew up feeling like I was missing pieces, like everyone else had a manual I never received. They said I was smart but lazy, sensitive but difficult. So much potential if I would just try harder. I tried to sit still while my thoughts were sprinting, tried to stay calm while my body was shaking inside, tried to understand why everything hit me harder than it seemed to hit anyone else. I read every glance like a verdict, heard criticism even in silence, and slowly I started believing that I was the problem. I was always too much, too loud, too fast, too angry, too sad. All my feelings came without filters like waves. No one taught me how to swim in. My mind never stopped running, never quiet, never at rest. And I hated myself for not functioning like the rest. I carried labels long before I had a diagnosis. Dramatic, intense, exhausting, a bit too sensitive. And when the word finally came, ADHD, it felt like the world said, see, that explains it. But it never explained my heart, never explained the empathy that burned too bright, never explained why I felt everything so deeply it almost hurt to exist. I grieved a child who thought she was broken, who lay awake promising to be smaller tomorrow, to laugh softer, to cry quieter, to need less. Because the fear of rejection settled in my bones, became a voice that whispered, don't be too much. I was always too much, too deep, too honest, too intense, too real. Reading every room like it held confession that I was one wrong. And even now I feel the panic when I notice I'm filling the space. Sometimes even I get overwhelmed by being me. I am angry, angry for every time I was misunderstood and punished for something I didn't have a name for. Angry for the teachers who called it attitude, for the adults who said I just needed discipline, for the friends who slowly stepped back when my emotions became inconvenient. Angry for the scars that came from trying to squeeze into shapes I was never meant to fit. And most of all, I'm angry that I learned to doubt my worth before I learned to understand my mind. What if I was never broken? What if my brain was just built differently? What if my intensity was never the flaw, but the fire? Yes, I feel everything deeply, but that means I love deeply too. Yes, my thoughts run wide, but that's where my creativity lies. I was never too much, I was just too much for people who didn't know how to hold me. And even if the scars still ache sometimes, even if rejection still lives under my skin, I am learning this. I am not a label, I am not a diagnosis. I am a whole human being who never needed to be less. I was never too much, I was just never understood.